Welcome. It's Tuesday the 15th of September and this is our fortnightly Chamber Live update on things that's happening in the Chamber of Commerce here in Greater Manchester, and we're looking a little bit further afield this morning, hot on what happened yesterday in Parliament and news around what's been going on with the withdrawal agreement, and we'll come back to that in a minute. We'll also be having a look at some of the new services that we're looking at launching, part of our Support for Growth initiative. We'll also be updating people on what's happening here in Greater with economic figures and what impact things like local lockdown and other measures are actually having. We just ask anyone, just if they're not talking, please just to mute themselves. If you've got any questions, obviously use the group chat facility. Type the question in there and we'll see what you come up with, and we'll get around to that in due course. We are recording the event today, and we will be publishing it on our YouTube channel and also as a podcast as well. So we'll crack on without any further ado. Just moving onto the latest what's happening in Brexit, and last night the first vote took place in the controversial new internal market bill, with a government majority of 77, still some way to go with that. And this comes a week after Brexit talks came to a halt over concerns that UK government was ready to override some elements of the agreement, and actually, to quote the Northern Ireland Secretary, indicate that the UK will break international law in a very specific and limited way, whatever that phrase actually means. We understand this has raised strong concerns, and the EU has called for more talks to address this. We're absolutely delighted today to welcome Liam Smythe as one of our guests from British Chambers of Commerce. Liam is in charge of trade facilitation and customs declarations at British Chambers of Commerce, so he's got a national and international overview on this. Liam, it's great to see you today, and thanks very much for taking the time in what must be a very busy schedule with everything going on at present. Obviously, just looking at the latest developments and really sort of jeopardising the ability of government to reach an agreement with trade on the EU, is there a way that this is going to get back on track, or has something happened now we're never going to get that trade deal done with the EU?
I think, thanks for inviting me, Chris, and team at Greater Manchester Chamber. You know, what we're seeing here in a way is the EU trade negotiation with the UK writ large. You know, this is absolute negotiation going on. What's unusual is that our government is also pushing through legislation, if you like, in order that they're ready if the negotiation goes badly. So, you know, we're riding two horses here. One is, as a government, the government is seeking to negotiate with David Frost as Sherpa, lead Sherpa on the negotiations with Michel Barnier and their respective teams. But at the same time, in a way, the government has to do something should that negotiation fail. And so the internal market bill seeks to address the legislation that would be required should the negotiations with the European Union fail in terms of trade. Complication, of course, is that the same government has already signed the withdrawal agreement, and also is subject to the Belfast Agreement, or the Good Friday Agreement as it's commonly called. And so one agreement, or the legislation going through Parliament last night in its first reading, would breach the terms of those other agreements. So in a way, it's almost amusing to watch this whole thing playing out. In a way, you know, kind of wonky people in the sidelines watching it all unravel, but actually it's really serious. You know, what's really serious is that a hard Brexit at the end of December would not be good for the UK economy, and particularly given, in any circumstance, never mind one where we have a backdrop of the COVID pandemic, furloughing of people, the latest unemployment figures, and the prospect those figures increasing in the months ahead as you know, redundancies and consultations currently taking place come to fruition. So this is a really difficult state of affairs. And whether you take a view that there are people in government who've always wanted, you know, an end state of no deal with the EU or not. I mean, again, just, you know, it's hyperbole. It's just political kind of stuff, this would be bad news for the UK if we came out with no deal with the European Union. So, last night's events in Parliament are part of the UK's saber-rattling kind of, we really want a deal, give us the deal we want. And the EU response and Marnie's response is just exactly the same thing. So, what you're seeing is lots of rhetoric on both sides as we get closer to one side, or probably both, having to give up something to get a deal or walking away. And actually, the walking away looks more likely than ever.
Yeah, which is obviously of a huge concern to people, and it's not just the immediate impact, it's what happens afterwards. And as you said, we've seen the job figures this morning and furlough coming to an end. It is a real perfect storm of stuff coming through. Yeah. Taking all that out to what's happening at the present moment in time, and recent polls carried out by British Chambers of Commerce indicate there's still a good proportion of companies who've yet to take any steps to prepare for whatever happens. And of course, now the trade negotiations are really ramped up, and we've got everything that's happening at present. Now more than ever, we need that help and advice. I mean, what could government do to ensure more companies are prepared to take action?
I could be flippant and say be credible, trustworthy, and provide certainty, but I wouldn't do that. I guess what we need government to do, and actually this week, one of the things that government's doing is through HMRC is writing to the 220,000 VAT registered businesses with a letter that sets out as clearly as they have ever done the steps that need to take place. Of course, it starts with make sure you have an EORI number, and through pressure from the British Chambers, about a year ago, when they were banging on about through ad campaigns saying get an EORI number and this is how to apply, they actually eventually listened and just issued them to companies. So all VAT registered companies ought to have an EORI number. But it then goes on to state in a sort of 9, I think, or 10-point plan, all of the elements that either businesses absolutely need to do or may opt to do, and they link directly to that advice. And it includes talking to signing up an intermediary, because for the first time they admit that actually customs declarations are complicated, which they are, that you need specialist software in order to make them, which you do, that you have to have connections with the port inventory systems as well to be functional on import, which is absolutely right. So there's clarity about and candor about how complex it is, but there's also very directional guidance coming in that letter to firms. That's also been published online yesterday. I have to tell you that we feel slightly responsible as we help to draft that letter to bring that clarity and to bring that candor. So if you get any problems with it, then we're to blame too. So we would blame the pile. But the good thing is they're doing that. Now, as recently as yesterday, so the latest stats came out that were published by a research organisation on business, say that only between 20 and 40% of small and medium-sized firms have done anything. And that's incredibly worrying. Large firms, it's more like 70% say that they are in a state of readiness. And that state of readiness is that they know as much as we all do at the moment, in the absence of, there are 4 new IT systems that will operate at our border. 2 are in a state of functional test and seem to work. And 2, the hauliers, the port systems and so on have yet to see. We haven't seen them. Article in The Guardian yesterday with a leaked report that says they ain't going to be ready talks about 7,000 trucks blockading. I mean, never mind the EU apparently, and they didn't, by the way, saying that they would blockade food exports from the UK. They never said that. Or imports from the EU. They never said that either. That's a diversion from the government's own report that says that even if we have these systems ready, we could have 7,000 trucks within a week queuing up at the port of Dover. So these are systems that are designed, that we haven't got yet, that are designed to ensure that trucks are port ready. They've got all the paperwork in place They've picked up goods that have got customs declarations for export, or they're travelling to the port to pick up goods that have been cleared for customs for import. So there's lots of things that are not known at the moment. But the key things SMEs need to do is make sure they've got an EORI number and understand it. Make sure that they have commissioned a customs broker, agent or intermediary to do their work, and that they are absolutely certain that that intermediary has capacity to not let them down. And one of the things that we've been doing in Chambers, of course, is building out Chamber Customs, a new customs agency and brokerage service across the UK that uniquely has got capacity. And we can be certain about that because we've only just started recruiting customers, and those customers can be guaranteed when we say we can do your 500 declarations a year because you do 10 imports and exports a week. When we tell you we can do that, we're drawing it down from our capacity and we can give you that reassurance. Importantly, all of our people are highly trained. We're talking about a system that's been approved by HMRC, that's high on compliance and assurance, and will be able to deliver for our chamber members and international trade customers who, frankly, we already know. They know us, they know how we do what we do, and they can trust that we'll do it right. So we're ready to do that, and we really want people to sign up to our service now, sign our terms and conditions. We can do the due diligence so that we're absolutely ready to transact right now or on the 1st of January if they're EU traders.
Okay, that's great, Ali. I'm just conscious of time. You need to shoot off for another event. I suppose sort of the final thing to say is, though, just to sort of say, use the Chamber network, as you've just mentioned there. There's the experts, we know the customers. There's a lot at play here, and just going through some of those issues that you've described there around the border controls. I mean, that's, seems an awful lot of work that needs to be done in a very short space of time.
It is a huge amount of work, and there isn't a lot of time. We're, I think, 108 days until the 31st of December today, aren't we? There or thereabouts. To put the systems in place, to get ready, will take some effort from firms who haven't done anything yet, and a bit of effort from firms who have done as much as they can, because there's still more to do. Yeah. The key thing to understand here is the volumes. So we're going from 55 million declarations a year to 300 million. That's a lot of transactions, and that's going to affect 150,000 businesses. So I don't really want to get you rushing to a supermarket to buy toilet roll and beans, but the scenario is similar. There is going to be a demand that's going to outstrip supply by a multiplier. And so if you want to have security of knowing your declarations can be done, talk to your chamber, secure the capacity, because once we've secured it and committed it to you, we're not committing it to anyone else.
Yeah. That's great. Liam, thank you so much for giving up your time today. Absolutely fantastic. And I'd like to get you back on maybe in a month or so's time when things, I keep saying this about Brexit, when things may be a little bit clearer. I think I was saying this about 2 years ago, and I'm still saying it now, but we are coming to that end point, aren't we, at some stage, and things, like you said, are getting interesting and a bit vexed as well between the parties concerned. So if we could get you back on again in another month or so's time, just for an update or whatever on the work that you're doing and the Chamber network is doing in the context of everything we're seeing here in the newspapers, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Liam, thank you so much for your time today.
You're most welcome. I'll be delighted to do that, and stay busy. Thank you.
Okay, cheers, Liam. Thanks very much. That was great. That was Liam Smider from British Chambers of Commerce, really giving a sort of top-level view on some of the things. And again, some of that sounded a little bit sort of, what's going to happen? We're not quite certain. And it's just a reflection, really, I think, on where things actually are at present with the whole Brexit deal and the withdrawal agreement. Before we bring in Lewis from the membership team, just want to say good morning to Nathan, our general manager here at Chamber Space. I'm in the Tony Wilson room here at Elliott House today, hosting the event, which is great to see everybody. And Nathan, I just want to ask you about an idea or an event we've got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be what's called a hybrid event. Can you just explain what that is for anybody that may be uncertain?
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everyone. So obviously with the way things are that everyone understands at the moment, we can't as an industry, a conference and events industry, we can't get as many people into a room, and that means event organisers can't get all their delegates into a physical space. So a hybrid event gives organisers and people running events the opportunity to get a certain number of people in the room for atmosphere, but socially distanced, and also stream that event out to as many as 10,000 people on the software that we're using. So it just opens up a lot more sort of possibilities of engagement and promotion in a different way. And we're looking to hold a hybrid event of our own in partnership with the Unique Venues at Manchester on the 1st of October.
Okay, that's great. And what's the idea behind that, Nathan? What's the event based on?
So the event is, we're sort of targeting it towards anyone that looks to arrange and hold meetings and events, but primarily event organisers, PAs, EAs, that sort of section of companies, just event bookers. And what's really exciting about it is it's probably going to be one of Manchester's very first hybrid events. And we're not just talking about an event where you have a static camera putting out a stream to a number of people sat like zombies in their living rooms. This is a really exciting piece of kit that we've got in. So we're partnering with an AV company that will have multiple cameras and TVs all around the venue. And it's an exhibition as well. So we will have virtual exhibitors and physical exhibitors on site. There's a platform called Swapcard that we're using, which means that the people engaging physically and virtually will run and see the agenda of the conference and can move from space to space through this platform. It's really, really exciting, and I advise anyone that is thinking about holding events or looking at the future of events to come along and take a look.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely superb. And again, as we're finding our way through this next phase of the pandemic, and it's more about living with the effects of COVID-19 and having to change things and everything, it's great to see such a fantastic response, quick response taking place to make the most of technology. And finally, just before you go, Members Lounge opened yesterday, and obviously if people do want to use it, they've got to get online and book a place.
Yes, that's right. We had our very first member in the lounge yesterday, which was a great excitement to all involved. But absolutely, come one, come all, no more than 8 at a time. But you know what I mean. It'll be very good to see you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much, Nathan. You're doing a great job as ever. So thanks very much for that. Nathan's sat upstairs. I'm down here on the ground floor. We probably can't get much more socially distanced than that. Our next speaker today is Lewis Crow from the membership team. And Lewis, I understand you're going to take us through some information about our new Support for Growth range of services.
Yes, that's right, Chris. Thanks ever so much for having me on Chamber Live again today. So we've recently put together our new Support for Growth range of services, which is to provide our chamber members with the support required to grow and develop, basically. We've brought together a range of specially selected services to ensure that our members are in the best position to navigate any challenges that they may face in the future. So the collection of services that we've put together, Chris, they are a mixture of existing chamber benefits that will help and support businesses alongside brand new partner services, just to ensure that we're there at every step of the way for businesses to help them recover, rebuild and to grow. So over the coming weeks, here in the membership team, we'll be shining a light on a particular Support for Growth service, utilising obviously the opportunity to speak with you on Chamber Live to give our members a little bit more information.
That's cool. And what service are you going to be focusing on today for us?
Well, today I wanted to take you through a new addition to the Chamber offering, which is a partner service that we have called Cashflow Manager. So the Chamber have partnered with Cashflow Manager UK to offer our members exclusive discounts to allow them to access affordable accounting software, basically to simplify the bookkeeping process. So Cashflow Manager has both a standard and a gold level. So it is actually beneficial for businesses of all different sizes. It's got packages to help dependent on the needs of the business. But it's particularly popular with sole traders, startups and SMEs who are basically looking for a reliable way to maintain their records of their accounts. And in addition to this, the program, once downloaded, is fully accessible offline, which is quite beneficial because, as you know, with people working from home, some people unfortunately are in areas where potentially the internet coverage isn't as good, but you can always access your accounts, manage them at any time offline, and then they advise that you log on once a month just to make sure you're backing everything up, basically.
That's great. Very accessible and a flexible service there. You just mentioned at the start of that an exclusive offer for Greater Manchester Chamber members for this service. What's that offer?
Yeah, so basically with the Cashflow Manager software, I mean, it's very competitive in terms of its pricing anyway, and usually works out about £12 per month for the standard package. But what we're doing is for our chamber members, they essentially get 3 months of their 12-month subscription free of charge. So you're getting your 12 months for the price of 9, basically, just to make it even more affordable and accessible, particularly as we've noticed that there's a lot of businesses within our membership where people have multiple responsibilities in a company. So if we can help to make your life easier in any of those responsibilities, it frees up your resources a little bit at your side.
Okay, that's great. And obviously, if anybody's watching this or is on at the event today, how can they find out more information?
In terms of that, if you get in contact with one of our membership team, we'll happily provide you with some further information about Cashflow Manager and the service itself. And then if it's of interest to you, couldn't be easier to sign up and get involved. We literally have a landing page available that enables you to pop your details in and get all set up and get a download code so you're ready to use the software.
That's fantastic. And we're also involved as a chamber now in the government's Kickstart scheme, which started a couple of weeks ago, and people may have heard a little bit about it. Can you tell us some more about what that actually is?
Of course. Firstly, it's a fantastic scheme for us to be involved with, and definitely ticks the boxes in terms of the chamber helping and supporting not only businesses, but also the local community in Greater Manchester as well. So for that, many of you, as Chris mentioned, will have heard about the new Kickstarter scheme. But for those of you who haven't, it's a £2 billion investment by the government to basically create work placement opportunities for young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who are currently on universal credit. So this provides a fantastic opportunity for young people to receive the work experience that they need at a difficult time for the job market, but also provides employers with additional resources with their salaries fully funded by the government.
Right, that sounds really good. And what's the chamber's role within that?
Well, it's quite interesting, really, because businesses can apply directly themselves, but to apply directly yourself, you need 30 work placements, which obviously does restrict most businesses, to be totally honest. So what we're able to do, organisations such as ourselves at the Chamber are able to support these businesses that have a smaller number of placements available by building groups of 30 placements across many businesses. So this ensures that these opportunities are still available to the companies that need the resources, and also there's the diversity in work available for those placements. It's not just the large, nationwide businesses that can offer these placements.
Which is ideal. So if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 placements or whatever it is, obviously we're here to help businesses do that. How can businesses, and they don't just have to be chamber members, this is available to any business in Greater Manchester, isn't it? How can they register their interest with us and what steps should they take?
Well, as you say, it's available to absolutely everybody who'd like to get involved. So we'd encourage anybody who this interests to get in touch. It's a really simple process to register your interest in the Kickstarter scheme. All you need to do is send an email in to ourselves at mmt@gmchamber.co.uk with your company name, your contact details, and the number of placements that you'd be able to offer. We'll then gather this information and we'll contact you back to help with the process. So that enables us to build the batches of 30 placements, 30 job placements at a time. Okay,
that's absolutely fantastic, that, Lewis. And again, just to reiterate that, please look out on the brief on social media. We've got those details going out there. So if you're watching this and you've got a couple of placements and you're thinking, well, I don't qualify for that, get in touch with us and we can help you with other businesses to make sure we can put you in touch and see if there is any help available through what is an important scheme. And again, probably one that over the next couple of months will be even more crucial as we face a tricky build-up over the autumn and winter months. Lewis, as ever, thank you very much for that very excellent update on the latest from membership. We look forward to hearing more about our support for growth programmes and initiatives over the coming months. Lewis, thank you very much. Our final speaker today is Subra, Head of Research and Policy here at the Chamber of Commerce. And Subra, we've just closed the latest Recovery Tracker survey, so these results are literally hot off the press. What are they showing us at the present moment in time as regards the Greater Manchester economy?
That's correct, Chris. I'm just waiting for someone to make me a co-host so I can actually share slides, but I'll speak until then. My voice has not been taken away. Yeah, so what the latest results show are a further stabilization, or perhaps we could call it a stagnation in terms of the demand numbers. So if you recall, in the last a few weeks, what we have seen is a tapering of the growth that we experienced between, say, April, May, and then into July. Since then, there seems to be this tapering that has taken place. There was a further worsening in the last fortnight. So since the beginning of September, the sales line has gone down slightly. It's from -15 to around -18. But a sharper drop in the advanced orders lines from -21 down to -26. So where does that leave us then? I mean, this is confirmed by some other developments which are taking place. And so in terms of the recovery, certainly it is going to be a more muted recovery trend. And what I have done is, in the previous recovery models that we had, it was based on the entire data since April and May, and I mean that could still be the best case scenario. So, which is why you have multiple lines towards the right-hand side of that chart there on your screens. So, the best case scenario is the dotted green line and the dotted gray line, but that is the best case scenario. That is assuming there is a sudden reversal in the demand that we are seeing now to an increasing level. It does seem slightly unlikely because there is a lot of confusion and concern around local lockdowns, a lack of clarity about what the guidelines are for different groups of businesses, for different types of people. So it is highly unlikely that we will have that best case scenario play out exactly as such. And so we have a more realistic scenario, which is our revised downtrend, which shows a slight stagnation or even a slight reduction in demand going into October. What that would then mean is that the slight W-shaped recovery, which was talked of earlier on. So if you remember, again, we had this alphabet soup being talked about earlier on in April and May, when some people were saying, actually, you could have a sudden sharp recovery, a V-shaped recovery, but then if there is a second wave of infections causing a second lockdown, then we would have a further decline. So it would look like a W-shaped recovery. It doesn't look like a W-shaped recovery yet, but I think there is going to be a slight reduction in demand in the coming weeks. So that's our revised recovery lines. So you have the reddish purple line for current sales, showing sales actually going down into the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then a slightly similar picture for our advance orders as well. So the orange line, which is looking more or less stable for now. So it isn't great news for a Tuesday morning. The sun's shining, but the economic sun is not shining at the moment.
Of course, this morning we've seen the latest release of the job figures as well from the Office of National Statistics, showing that there's 700,000 people since March up to, I think it's July, isn't it, that are no longer in work.
That's correct, Chris. So what the data release shows is that up to 700,000 jobs have now been lost. That's just the minor detail, to be honest, within this data release. Okay, 700,000 people have lost their jobs. That's a tragedy, but it is still a minor detail. And I say that because the ONS also shows that up to 5 million people are still temporarily away from work. That includes the number of people who are in furlough, but it also includes other people who have, whose businesses may have been temporarily closed, pending a restart and a recovery. So that's, again, a big issue there. So 5 million people are still temporarily away from jobs. But the ONS data also shows something else, which is rather interesting. Vacancies, new vacancies have actually gone up in July compared to the month of June. But where are those new vacancies coming up? Those new vacancies are coming up in freight and logistics. They are coming up in retail. Now you might think, well, retail is actually shedding jobs, so why are there new vacancies? All of this, and then there are new vacancies coming up in construction. And so let me start with the construction point first. So in the last few weeks, what we have seen in the construction sector is a slight increase in demand for warehousing space, for private industrial space. And so that is what is, it's a result of demand that we are seeing elsewhere. So why freight and logistics? E-commerce is the primary reason for that. But it could also indicate some advanced preparation for Brexit, which is what Liam was talking about earlier. So we know that e-commerce sales have increased significantly, and that would mean you need a lot more warehousing space. So there is significant investment taking place in warehousing space nationally, but also in Greater Manchester. Retail, most of the jobs that are coming up in retail, and retail is a very loose definition. It includes Amazon, but it also includes your independent retailer down the road. Most of those retail jobs are, again, the result of big supermarket chains, companies like Amazon, etc., ramping up their e-commerce operations, in the lead up to the festive season and beyond. So if we just take that data, and a slightly higher level point might be that there has been this change in behavior, and that change in behavior, at least the retailers expect, is going to be a permanent trend, that people are going to be shopping less from physical stores and more online.
Yeah, and this is where it all starts to, like you said, to sort of merge together, where we've got a lot of, enforced innovation and changes. And I mean, this was happening in the lead up to COVID-19. What's happened over the last 6 months is it's been compressed, and that process has speeded up, hasn't it? And things have happened at a much greater pace. And obviously, when things like that happen, big numbers arise at the other end, because the change is so much more dramatic in the long run. Just going back to the graph, Subra, and obviously I know for a while we've been saying, and as an organisation, and going off the data, and again that comes from members there out on the front line. We were looking at reaching that black line across the middle, the 0 point, and going back into positivity sometime in October. I'm looking at that now, and that point is moving further and further away, isn't it?
That's correct. So our initial model in June, based on the data that was then available, indicated that we would be reaching positive territory before the end of September. Since then we have had to revise it down, so the data showed it would be in October, but now the data shows it's going to be November. So this is going to be slow. It is going to be drawn out. We are not going to see a rapid rebound yet, but business activity levels have certainly gone up. Hospitality sector saying pretty good response to the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. So business activity levels are picking up, but I think the overall economic recovery trend is becoming more and more muted.
Yeah, and it's difficult to say exactly what's going on. The only thing I will say for certain is they're probably the most up-to-date figures that anyone has got hold of at the present moment in time, because a lot of government stuff is 2 or 3 months out of date at the very least before they release it. That is probably a few days or at least a week old, that data, and coming directly from businesses, like I said, out there on the front line. So again, the final thing to say is for anybody on the call and watching this at a later date, please, if you get a request to fill in a survey, a business survey, this is the type of information we need from it, and we can do an awful lot with this. We get an awful lot of requests from media, from government, from local authorities here to find out what's actually going on in the local economy. And as up to date as we can make that data and information and results, means we can get a much better response for businesses in these very trying times. Subra, thank you very much for that. We'll be officially releasing the report tomorrow, so please look out for that in the brief and on social media. The only thing I just want to wrap up with today is obviously a lot of talk at present around local lockdowns and measures, and we saw a step up in what was going on as regards restrictions in Bolton last week. with all hospitality now reverting to takeaway sales only. I've been watching the numbers of infections steadily increase throughout Greater Manchester and other areas in the UK. There's all sorts of talk around what might happen next, etc., etc. Obviously, one of the things we want to do as a Chamber of Commerce is make sure if you're a business in one of those areas or worried about what may happen in your area, that you know what is actually going on. We do have a COVID section on the main Chamber website, gmchamber.co.uk, and one of the navigation tabs at the top will take you to a COVID-19 specific website. It's been set up right from day one of the pandemic, really, and we're updating that on a regular basis with all the latest information about what you can and can't do now in the local areas. And again, it's not stuff we've invented or put our own spin on or anything like that. It's direct information from government, from local authority websites, from the NHS, etc. So it is direct from the people who are making these decisions. So please, if you haven't done so yet, just have a look at it. We're changing all sorts of things that we're having to do in the building here to make sure we're still COVID compliant. It will be the same for any business out there. So please make sure you're ahead of what you need to do to make sure your business can continue to trade successfully and safely through the next few months until hopefully we get beyond the current crisis that we are in. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is just thank all our speakers, Liam in his absence for joining us, Nathan, Lewis and Subra. Another packed event today with lots of information, everything from Brexit withdrawal agreements right through to whatever shape the recovery graph is looking like now. I'm going to start calling it a sideways L. I don't know about, or a lazy V, or maybe it is that Nike swoosh tick even more extended. They could be going on for a few more feet actually on the end of that with the way that the results are coming in now. But we'll get there eventually. We will cross that positive line and get back into growth at some stage, sooner the better. So thank you very much for joining us.